Who was drafted before these MVPs? Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and today we're going to be diving into the last decade of NFL MVPs with some caveats because there are some quarterbacks who have won multiple MVPs. In those instances, we're just going to sub in the Offensive Player of the Year. The purpose of this video is to take a look at these 10 players with a generational talent and see who was picked before them in each of their respective drafts. Let's go. We'll start with 2013, and in 2013, Peyton Manning won the MVP. He was drafted in 1998, and unfortunately for this video, he was the first overall pick to the Colts. He had a successful career with the Colts and then won a Super Bowl in Denver after he left Indianapolis. He's a Hall of Famer. This was a once-in-a-lifetime pick for the Colts, and there were no quarterbacks drafted ahead of this MVP. In 2014, the NFL MVP was Aaron Rodgers, who was drafted in 2005. Now, Aaron Rodgers was still a first-round pick if we look down here at pick number 24. Were there any QBs drafted ahead of him? Yes, there were. Only one, though, and that player was Alex Smith, who was taken number 1 overall by San Francisco. I think if they had to redo it, they would go back and probably take Aaron Rodgers instead of Alex Smith, but I don't want to hate on Alex Smith too much. I would call his career successful. An interesting pick also in the first round was Jason Campbell, a guy that I had to actually click on to recognize. Poor guy, never had a winning season in the NFL and certainly fell off a lot faster than did Rodgers or Smith. The 2015 MVP was Cam Newton, and much like Peyton Manning, Cam Newton was drafted number 1 overall. No other quarterbacks went before him. But to have a little fun, Blaine Gabbert did also go in this round, and I would say Cam Newton's career was much more successful than Blaine Gabbert's. Matt Ryan was the 2016 NFL MVP, and he was drafted 3rd overall by Atlanta, where he spent all but a few years of his career, ending up in Indianapolis to kind of fall apart. But hopefully he will be remembered for his time in Atlanta, which I think was a successful time. Now, so far, this video is not super interesting. Eventually, I promise we're going to get to see some guys who are drafted above others that'll kind of shock you, but we can also see that Joe Flacco was a quarterback drafted in that same round, and he is actually playing phenomenally well right now. But overall, good pick for the Falcons. Tom Brady was the 2017 NFL MVP, and he was drafted in the year 2000. And unfortunately for this one, I can't sort it by round. I have to go by position. So you see all of the quarterbacks that were drafted before Tom Brady. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, pick number 199. The only guy I really recognize on this list, 2 guys actually, is Chad Pennington and Mark Bulger. I don't recognize any of these other fellows, but he was the 7th quarterback taken in this draft, and I think it goes without saying, the Patriots got a steal. The 2018 NFL MVP was Patrick Mahomes, and funny enough, he was actually drafted 1 year prior, 2017, so that is a quick turnaround for NFL MVP, but he was not the first overall pick in terms of quarterbacks taken. Mitchell Trubisky was actually the first quarterback off the board in this draft, coming out of North Carolina, playing for Chicago. And you know, I don't need to say it. Obviously, Chicago would be in a much better position if they have Patrick Mahomes. One would assume, but they found their way with Fields, I think, so maybe it's not all lost. But at the 10th overall pick, I would say Patrick Mahomes is certainly providing a solid return on the investment. The 2019 NFL MVP was Lamar Jackson, who, just like Patrick Mahomes a year prior, was drafted a year prior in 2018. And this one is very interesting. Lamar Jackson was a first-round pick, but he went in the last pick of the first round to the Baltimore Ravens. So who went before him? We have Baker Mayfield, the number 1 overall pick. And I won't say that's too wild. I think Baker has been in some rough situations in terms of the teams and the staff he's played for, but I think he's making kind of a resurgence of his career in Tampa Bay right now. Sam Darnold was taken 3rd overall, and I think we can stop right there. Okay, no offense to Sam Darnold, not panned out the way that many expected, especially Mel Kiper expected to in the NFL. At the 7th pick, we had Josh Allen, who is totally returning value in that spot, playing well for Buffalo. And inside the top 10 at the 10th pick is Josh Rosen. Who? Yeah, exactly. Josh Rosen. Need I say any more? Quarterback out of UCLA, came in and just Josh Rosen? And after Josh Rosen at 10, Lamar Jackson falls all the way down to the 32nd pick, going to Baltimore, where he obviously impacted the program immediately and won MVP the next season. Aaron Rodgers won the MVP again in 2020, so we'll look at the Offensive Player of the Year, which was Derrick Henry, running back out of Alabama who played for the Titans that year and has played for the Titans his whole life. Only one running back was drafted before him, and that was Ezekiel Elliott, who played for Dallas. Now, I don't think Zeke was a bad pick by any means for Dallas at 4. Sure, if they could look now, maybe they would have more interest in Derrick Henry, but I don't want to sit here and say, well, Derrick Henry, should have gone for... I don't necessarily believe that, but I do think for the Tennessee Titans, Derrick Henry had tremendous value where he was drafted at the 45th overall pick. In 2021, Aaron Rodgers would win MVP again, so we will look at the Offensive Player of the Year for 2021, and that was Cooper Kupp. Now, this is another fun one, similar to that Tom Brady one. Cooper Kupp was drafted in the 3rd round, 69 overall.
Nice.
If we look at the wide receivers who went before him, the 5th overall pick was Corey Davis, who I think was certainly a letdown for that 5th spot, a little bit of a disappointment. Mike Williams can't stay off of the injury report, hasn't been able to his whole career. John Ross is no longer in the NFL. Zay Jones has found a little bit of a resurgence with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he's had a fine career. Curtis Samuel probably hasn't returned the investment on a 2nd-round pick. Juju looked great in Pittsburgh, but for the Chiefs and for the Patriots, he's looked average, so I don't know what to say about him. And then we finally get to Cooper Kupp. I do think Cooper Kupp's a great player, but I will have to give some credit to Matthew Stafford, who I do believe puts Cooper Kupp in situations to make big plays and to have a successful career thus far. But finding himself at the 69th pick, the Rams certainly got value out of Cooper Kupp. In 2022, Patrick Mahomes wins the MVP again, so we will look at Offensive Player of the Year again, and that is Justin Jefferson. And this one shocked me a little bit. I thought Justin Jefferson was a top 10 pick in the NFL. He was not. So if we look at the wide receivers taken before him, tough to say what Henry Ruggs' career would have been, but if they would have been able to get Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, I think that would have been a great 3-piece combo. However, he's no longer in the league. Jerry Jeudy at 15, I think, is fine. Never had a QB to throw to him. He has no chemistry with Russell Wilson whatsoever. Moving down to CeeDee Lamb, tremendous year this year. Absolutely phenomenal year. So I would even say at the 17th overall pick, Dallas found value in Lamb. Now, the one that people are going to laugh at and be critical of is this Jalen Reagor pick at 21. Jalen Reagor was taken 1 pick before Justin Jefferson. Could you imagine Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Justin Jefferson on a team? Now, you could argue if they had Jefferson, they don't take Devontae Smith. I get that, but still, I do think Philadelphia is kicking themselves a little bit in hindsight, taking Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. That leaves us with this year, 2023. I believe Lamar Jackson will win the MVP, and we've already talked about him, so I want to talk about a potential Offensive Player of the Year candidate. Yes, I know Christian McCaffrey's probably going to win it, but I want to look at Tyreek Hill because I think he is certainly a reasonable candidate to win this award. Tyreek Hill was drafted in 2016 in the 5th round, pick 165. Let's look at the receivers who went before him. And I'm just warning you, this is going to be painful. Cleveland takes Corey Coleman. Houston takes Will Fuller. Washington takes Josh Doxson. And Laquan Treadwell goes to Minnesota. Sterling Shepard, Michael Thomas, and Tyler Boyd. Now, all of these guys that I've named have had average to slightly above average careers, so not horrible. Braxton Miller from Ohio State goes to Houston. I don't know what happened to him, to be completely honest. I've never even heard of Leonte Carroo, so your guess is as good as mine there. Chris Moore, not the most flashy and exciting career. I don't know who Malcolm Mitchell is. I don't know who Ricardo Lewis is. Pharaoh Cooper. Demarcus Robinson's pretty mid. Tajay Sharp. Jordan Payton. I mean, look at Cleveland. Jordan Payton, Ricardo Lewis, and Corey Coleman in this draft, and none of them are in the league anymore. Trevor Davis. And finally, we get to Tyreek Hill. This has to be one of the biggest positional steals in the NFL, especially for a player who could be an MVP candidate, who could be an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. The Kansas City Chiefs snagged Tyreek Hill late, and he certainly proved that he is much better than the 165th overall pick. I love diving into these random stats and data points and seeing now that we're a decade removed from some of these instances, how teams could have planned differently, thought differently, drafted differently. So maybe some more draft videos in your future. I am not sure. If this is something that's interesting to you, drop an idea. If you got an idea you want to see specifically, a player you want to see specifically, sort of a topic you want to see. Happy to entertain you all the best I can. Thank you guys for coming by, and we'll see you next time.